Hey, you know what's a word that I associate with my childhood? McDonald's. Yeah, let's talk about McDonald's. You could say they made it big in some places. Hell, Ronald McDonald was at one point rivaling Santa Claus in terms of recognition. Take that, Christmas! But you're missing the key word there. He was at one point rivaling Santa Claus. What happened to him? That's a pretty damn good question. Now we have this ugly box thing. Can someone please get it off your marketing too? No! We have to go back to where it all started. Yes, that far back. So let's take a look at some McDonald's history. In the beginning, there was Clown. And as with most things with early incarnations, it ain't that well developed.
Ronald McDonald! Now where is that clown? Oh, Ronald! Hey, Ronald! Here I am, kid.
Can we talk about the creative process behind putting the cup on his nose? What's the deal with the cup on his nose? Is this real? I feel like this is some sort of parody. Let me take a look at this. 1963? Huh. Well, psychedelics, huh? You know, there seemed to be this weird time where clowns were scary at one point, and now they just aren't? I mean, you look at clowns like Bozo, and then now, like, what happened? You guys were supposed to be like spawns of Satan, not things that I'm supposed to hug and cuddle with. But hey, you could argue Ronald McDonald helped change that idea. Well, not this first incarnation. With that being said, let's move in more towards the future. But first...
He's Ronald McDonald, the hamburger happy clown. A McDonald's drive-in restaurant is his favorite place in town.
Ah, there he is.
Yeah. Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
Wait, no. Abort!
Mom told me never to talk to strangers.
Well, your brother's right as always, but I'm Ronald McDonald. Favorite place in town.
At some point, Ronald stumbled upon a place that I can only assume is the Room of Spirit and Time, where he achieved ultimate knowledge and powers of wizardry. Well, aside from his regular powers of regenerating hamburgers. Also, can someone please tell me what this pose is? What is this supposed to be? This is inviting? Huh? And of course, he changed his look into something we're all a little bit more familiar with today, which, considering this is what he would wear for the next 50 years or so, I'd say he was a bit ahead of his time. That is to say, if time existed where he is now. Yeah, his overall look is a little less cluttered, but is he really any less scary?
Oh, what a beautiful day for fun. What would you like to do? Party. That's a wonderful idea.
Also, he built a decision-making machine, which I'd like to believe adds another layer of insanity.
Hey, it ate them. That was my dinner. I guess we'll never know which one is best. We'll just have to go on eating them all. Isn't that too bad?
Ronald also had to do some community service for that one crime, in which he helps paint, of all things, a local McDonald's restaurant.
What a coincidence!
Oh, and he also has a flying hamburger. Naturally. Also, do you see how brolic my man Ronald is? Are those even real? Did you inject hamburgers into those muscles? That's not healthy, Ronald. But he probably did the same thing to his thighs. Now, by the time the 70s came around, things were getting a little stale. Sure, Ronald was helping sell books and these creepy little dolls, but by all accounts, he was just your typical TV clown, despite uniquely helping sell fast food. But all that would change with the introduction of McDonaldland.
Get yourself ready for a trip through McDonaldland.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the McDonald's Cinematic Universe, featuring by far McDonald's most iconic and successful ads, following our favorite hamburger happy clown,
Ronald McDonald.
In these short segments, we get stuff like Ronald versus the evil Grimace,
Where's the Coke? Where are the shakes?
Ronald versus Captain Crook,
Cheeseburger, cheeseburger, cheeseburger! He did it! Yeah!
Ronald feeds the wastebaskets, Ronald versus the Goblins, later known as the Fry Guys, Ronald in Sundayland, Ronald and Friends on a Ship, Ronald and Friends kart racing, Ronald versus his conscience, Ronald can't get out of bed,
Presenting Ronald McDonald in Get Out of Bed, Sleepyhead. Get out of bed, Sleepyhead.
Ronald and Friends go back in time, Ronald in the Upside Down Machine, Ronald and Friends on another ship,
He tries to keep an even keel, but round and round it goes.
Hamburglar, take the wheel!
Ronald and Friends go to the zoo, Ronald tries to make it to McDonald's in time,
Do you think Ronald will make it to McDonald's in time?
He always does, you know.
You really think he'll make it to McDonald's?
I hope so.
You really think he'll make it?
and Ronald versus the Hamburglar. Like a million times. Now around this time, McDonald's was just starting to expand on an international level. So if you had keen eyes and saw this Hamburglar in particular, you can assume, and rightly so, that McDonald's had in fact reached Japan during this time. 1971 to be exact. Now what I'm getting at here is that different countries had their own versions of McDonaldland, or at least their uses of the characters. And before we go down that road, I have to establish that these characters, Ronald's friends, are mostly considered McDonaldland characters. They were brought in with the set and were rarely seen after it was gone. Also, we're gonna pretend this didn't exist, okay?
Rubble, rubble, America. I am back.
But let's go through and take a look at some of these characters. Ronald, of course, is the main character of these commercials and usually represents this all-knowing authority figure. He always gets his way, whether it's through sheer luck or occasional plot magic, but hey, McDonald's is the real hero here.
It's time Ronald joins his friends, but who will take the picture then? Just like one big family, watch the birdie and you'll see Ronald McDonald.
Okay. Grimace, as we know, was once evil and had 2 extra arms and, well, I don't know what he is. Does anyone know what he is? Well, whatever the case may be, all I know is that he has a thing for shakes.
My hand's green. I'm turning green all over. Oh, well, I always turn green about this time of year when McDonald's has delicious green shamrock shakes.
Could I try one? I've never had a green shake before.
Sure, shake.
Did I try one?
And hey, fun fact, he was voiced by Frank Welker, who's the voice of Fred Jones, Megatron, and Curious George. Yes, I'm as surprised as you are. Now Hamburglar, evidently, is a burglar with an eye for hamburgers. His early design was a very curious choice to say at the very least. He was this short troll-looking thing with grey hair who would only speak in gibberish. And it came off as unintentionally creepy, and at one point he had this horrifying-looking face. And he made a swing out of this thing at one point. Like, what the hell? No one saw this and thought there was a problem? They made something that was supposed to be this short, harmless, kids villain character into this giant that I'm pretty sure every time you look directly into its eyes, one less baby gets to fight in the world. Or gets a free McDonald's hamburger. Both are terrible! But okay, let's do a quick fast run through with the rest of these characters. Captain Crook is a pirate with a thing for filet fish sandwiches. Mayor McCheese and Officer Big Mac were both made to sell McDonald's other sandwiches. The Professor built most of the technology around McDonaldland. The goblins like to gobble french fries. And Birdie the early bird was made to help sew breakfast at McDonald's.
Get out of bed.
Alright, now that we're all acquainted like a big, happy family, let's get back to chronicling some history. Now, I know I've been a little all over the place in terms of time periods, but let me explain some eras of McDonaldland as it happened. Of course, we've got the one with the classic song in 1971, where they introduced the world and some of the characters to us. It's also where Ronald's fro looks hella on point. It's probably one of the first times they really nailed his design. The next series of commercials, though, ruined him!
That's me!
What happened to his hair? And they had to have one of the most annoying songs playing for these ads. Or at least really annoying for while I edit this. It was a fun, but forgettable time, and someone really needs to tell Ronald to stop wearing his hair down. It does not look good. You need to look more professional, man. You can't just go around looking like this. Now, redemption couldn't have come at such a better time, because in 1974 we got...
Hit it, gang! Ronald McDonald!
Ronald McDonald! Ronald McDonald! Ronald McDonald! Ronald McDonald!
No, but seriously, there are times where I just pull out
Ronald McDonald
to myself because it's just so catchy, man. These right here were the McFavorite Hamburger Clown series of commercials where they actually dedicated the whole song to Ronald. And wouldn't you know it, Ronald brought his afro back. It's almost like there really was a problem.
That's me!
No. And also now, I think it's around a time where they started being a little bit more elaborate with these commercials. Not really always taking place in McDonaldland. Like again, they're on the ship, they're in the Old West. A circus in the city. And you know what? I appreciate this change so much that I'm kind of willing to call this the best era of Ronald. Here's some highlights.
Shh, it's time for bed. Oh no, not again.
Now we can't sleep with the moon shining in our eyes.
It's your turn to put out the moon, Ronald. It always is.
Here's Ronald McDonald.
Stop! Is that a McDonald's French fry?
This? Wait a minute.
Let's taste it and see. No.
This stop sign is an octagon!
Who's the McFriendliest fellow in town? Who's our McFavorite hamburger clown? Whose feet are funniest? Whose smile is silliest? Ronald McDonald.
Now you can get a McDonaldland wrist wallet at McDonald's. Hamburglar, Big Mac, Captain Crook, and Ronald. You can collect a different one each week.
This era, I believe, was so successful that it lasted 4 whole years until 1978 with the We Know Ronald Can Do It, We Know Ronald Can series of commercials, which themselves were also pretty catchy as well.
We know Ronald can do it. We know Ronald can. We know Ronald can do it. We know Ronald can. We know Ronald can do it. We know Ronald can. We know Ronald can do it. We know Ronald can.
Okay, McDonald's fries for everyone.
How do you do it, Ronald?
Oh, just use my head.
They also started doing this weird square frame outro with the McDonald's logo, which feels a little out of place. I don't know about you, it just kind of happens. Oh, and also title cards. They're pretty hard to miss. Now, around this time, a lot of different things started happening with the company outside of the US McDonaldland commercials. For one, we started getting a bunch of McDonaldland commercials from other countries, most notably from the UK and Japan. Although I did find one commercial from Australia that dated back to 1976 with this weird shaggy-haired Ronald that looks nothing like how they advertise him. Can you do that? Replace our big puffy boy with Shaggy? But anyways, this was a common trend with other countries since they started having their own ad campaigns and thus their own actors and costumes to work with. For now though, let's stick to the US side of marketing since there's a lot more to pick from here.
Oh wow, what a magical clown!
We have so much fun when Ronald's around. Ronald, the world famous magical clown. Whoa!
Oh, and I can't forget about the national debut of the Happy Meal. An idea combined from two countries. The Ronald menu, which was a kid's meal from Guatemala, and the Treat of the Week from Canada. Boom! Pure bliss. The Happy Meal and Ronald McDonald kind of went hand in hand with one another, so it would occasionally feature some McDonaldland assets on packaging and toys, so yeah, I kind of had to mention it here at one point. By the way, the first Happy Meal box was themed after a circus wagon, Ronald being a clown and all, with one of 6 toys, one of which could be a cool little McDonaldland character-shaped eraser. And the first movie tie-in with the Happy Meal was the first Star Trek movie. Probably wouldn't be my first choice, but hey, the packaging looks cool. It was also around this time that Birdie the Early Bird started appearing in commercials, which would be one of the first big changes to come during the 80s, and believe me, there would be a lot of them. Another ad campaign started in 1981.
There goes Birdie, and here comes Ronald.
In an elevator?
There's so much fun for you today. There's so much fun for you today. And that's so much fun for you today. There's so much fun for you today at McDonald's.
This point in time is notable for it being the first time Ronald drew the golden arches. It's so slick and smooth, man. It's iconic. It was so iconic that it lasted like 16 years, until the late 90s. Now that's staying power.
Hi, Billy Mays here from Mighty Putty.
And hey, we even get an origin story on how Ronald met Grimace, which further validates my belief that Ronald is immortal. And all-knowing, since as an infant, he was already an adult, or adult-sized? I don't know, but it's a pretty big carriage.
How I Met Grimace. Oh, yeah, tell us. Well, a long time ago, there I was, a little baby in my big buggy. When all of a sudden, hello, lots to do, can't stop now. Hopper McHamburgers, can't stop. I really thought Grimace couldn't stop, so off I went to save him. Hey, come on, little purple kid. Purple? Wee! I was just about to stop him.
What happened, Ryan?
Suddenly, I had an idea. I'll head him off at McDonald's. Grimace was headed right towards me when... McDonald's! Oh, boy! I'll stop for McLunch shake. Okay.
So did we just retcon that whole evil Grimace thing, or... Yeah, I'm dumb. They've been doing that for like 10 years now. I just realized there was no transition to that. He just lost 2 arms and became good. Something about those 2 extra arms must have made him a real prankster. Anyways, as I burn my book of McDonald lore, let's get a move on. 1983.
Back in time for breakfast at McDonald's. Yummy hotcakes and sausage.
With juice and milk to make it complete.
McDonald's, Ronald and you.
When you double dip.
Ronald and you. McDonald's.
Looks like a full moon now.
Ronald and you.
I couldn't really notice anything different here from the last arc. Stuff just kind of felt a little samey after the late 70s. Is McDonaldland even a thing at this point? Well, somewhat. Instead of that elaborate set from the 70s, now all you have is like a bunch of realistic trees, scenery. Typically with a McDonald's in the background, it just always has to be there. No coincidences. I did find this one PSA made from them around this time that didn't advertise any food, so good for them, I suppose.
Every single time you get in the car, do a quick little trick, make your seatbelt click. When you pick up your friends, show them the trick. Make a rule to make it click.
Oh no.
Because you never know. It's not funny when you fake it. It's a rule. You just don't break it. Make a rule and make it stick. Make a rule, make it click.
Other than that, nothing interesting to report. $1984.
It's a good time for the great taste of McDonald's McNuggets.
It's a good time for the great taste.
You haven't touched your cheeseburger.
Of McDonald's.
You know what? Actually, I'm going to combine this with another one. So here's...
Wow, flying is grand!
Bertie, we miss you.
The good time, great taste.
Now who's gonna teach me how to laugh?
Of McDonald's. The good time, great taste.
Driver, get us out of here!
Where to?
Uh-oh!
Of McDonald's.
Good time, great taste. That's why this is our place. Good time, great taste. Of McDonald's. McDonald's. Good time, great taste. Of McDonald's.
What can I say about this period in time except hip and modern? Well, kinda. Let's talk about the big elephant in the room here. They really revamped the character costumes during this time. Gradually, too. Here's 1984 when the jingle started playing, and look at this new Hamburglar being shown off, hanging out with an old version of Grimace. And let's talk about this Hamburglar design, by the way. Biggest glow up of 1985. Congrats, man. He's not this decrepit old troll anymore. He's a boy now. And Grimace also looks a bit more friendly now. I don't know. Googly eyes always just creep me out. And yeah, Birdie and the Goblins also changed, but my point is, everyone changed, and for the better. Look, as much as I loved the stuff from the 70s, if I were to see one of these walking down an alleyway at night, or hell, at day for that matter, I'd run! They don't hold up! But they were fun while they lasted. But not only were these costumes being changed during this time, but Ronald himself was changed. Or his actor, at least. We haven't really covered many of his actor changes just yet, but I think this one has to be the second most notable. You might not recognize it immediately through face and costume since he's moving around a lot, but the voice makes all the difference. The older actor, King Moody, played Ronald up until his 50s and was replaced in 1985 with a younger Squire Friedel. You can tell by the voice that Ronald is being played by a different person. It's a bit more nasal and higher pitched.
Back in time for breakfast at McDonald's. Yummy hotcakes and sausage.
What a great day for singing our new song. Good time, great taste, great taste.
And hey, they defined their own generations, and that's great, you know? I might give the point to Moody, though, just for playing him a bit longer and kind of laying that foundation for future Ronalds there. And Ronald wasn't the only human character changed either. If we go back, we can see the Professor kind of fixed himself up, and Captain Crook, well, he's a real person now. Actually, no, they were just constantly revising him. Look, whatever. Point is that McDonald's really modernized its image during the mid-80s. Some might even say a bit too much. I know we just talked about the Professor and Captain Crook, but they actually stopped appearing sometime around 1987. There was even a new character called Cosmic who was shortly dropped and last appeared in the McKids video game, which, from what I've heard, isn't all too bad. But man, Captain Crook got the shortest end of the stick. At least the Professor appeared in the McKids video game. Captain Crook, nothing! No one cared about this guy! Maybe he was a bit too similar to like Captain Crunch or Captain Hook. I have a feeling Ronald let him off too easy when he sicked a bunch of goblins on him. That message was sent from the heart.
Watch this. Oh, Captain Crook. How about taking these French fries over to Mayor McCheese?
Sure I will. Now they're mine. Ardy, ardy, ardy.
By the way, can I say how great the music was during this time? Now, I don't mean from the 80s in general, but these commercials always had bumpin' tunes. Let's reminisce while we try to forget about our, fallen friends.
Ronald McDonald in.
And warm and hot. can warm us. On a cold, cold day, it feels so neat to clap your hands together and feel the beat. Hamburgers, French fries, hot for you. McDonald's hand warming.
It's fun to do.
It's a good time for the great taste.
Doesn't mean a lot if you don't get it hooked.
Of McDonald's.
Now so far, we've pretty much described some of the highs and lows of the McDonaldland commercials, with the 80s experiencing a renaissance period by updating its characters. McDonald's even started investing their time on animation and a movie cameo for Ronald. And yeah, that's right, I said cameo. Because the trailer for Mac and Me lies and he's not in the damn thing for more than 20 seconds! Unfortunately though, despite all the fun we had, this is where I have to say, it's all downhill from here. Well, for McDonaldland. Why is that? Well, let's finish up I guess. 1990 brought us food, folks, and fun, which would also be the last year for Squire Fidella's Ronald. You can start to see technology catching up with early uses of CGI techniques being used in these commercials. And now I don't really know what else to say. It was so short-lived, and compared to other ad campaigns, this one had very few commercials to go along with it. Some of them aren't even much of anything. This short is just Ronald finding a box and driving away with it. Hey, a Happy Meal! Anyways, it's not looking too good for the 90s so far, but 1992 seems like it's doing a bit better.
Do you believe in magic?
Do you believe in magic? It's Ronald's house!
When you believe in magic.
Ronald makes it magic.
Ronald makes it magic.
Let's eat.
Ronald makes it magic.
Do you believe in magic? Also known as Ronald Makes It Magic, lasted a whole 5 years up until 1997, and unfortunately, it would ultimately end up taking McDonaldland with it. But at least we got to see a bunch more commercials around this time. We got to see Ronald celebrate the Happy Meal's 15th birthday with a bunch of cartoon characters, Hamburglar looks dead, and of course another Ronald McDonald, this time being played by Jap Depke. I don't know what it is about this guy, but something about him just isn't right. If you could describe to me what it is, please comment down below. I'm genuinely curious. I think it's a combination between his eyes and his makeup. It just seems unnatural. For a magical clown, at least. And yeah, if we could talk about the ad campaign for once, Ronald's pretty magic. It's kinda weird that they feel the need to ask if I believe in magic though. I'm not comfortable with that. Look, I love Ronald, but I'm not ready for this full-time commitment of idolizing him. It's gone too far. He can be my favorite hamburger clown, but I never wanted to question his magical capabilities in a way that I feel threatens my life. I know he's out there, lurking. The hints are all there. Speaking of which, you know what's something disturbing? I was born in 1997, the last year McDonaldland was ever on TV. Or maybe it could have been 98, I don't know. The point is that maybe I'm the one who destroyed all the good in this world. I never grew up with any McDonaldland characters, unless you count Ronald, I suppose. When McDonaldland disappeared, Grimace, Hamburglar, and Birdie rarely came back. Maybe for a cameo or two, but for the most part, Ronald would be going on a solo career up until his time runs out. If 1990 was the beginning for the end of McDonaldland, 98 to 2003 were the Twilight years, because it would still barely live on through merchandise and
The Wacky Adventures of Ronald McDonald.
What, you thought I was going to talk about this? Well, you're right. I don't want to risk copyright claims on something I'm going to talk so little about. Also, I'm not entirely sure if Klasky Chapeau would like it if I mentioned it in this kind of video, but, here's a fleeting mention. From 1998 to 2003, McDonald's would release 6 direct-to-video VHS tapes with cartoon episodes featuring the McDonaldland characters, plus some new ones, in a more futuristic version of McDonaldland. Maybe one day I'll talk more in depth about it, but for now, I guess it's a neat look into Ronald's world in the 21st century, even seeing his house and new architecture there. On the TV side of things though, Ronald was still going on without McDonaldland. This time asking,
Exactly.
Did somebody say McDonald's?
Did somebody say McDonald's?
Did somebody say McDonald's? Did somebody say McDonald's? Did somebody say McDonald's?
what a presumptuous thing to ask. Hey, I heard you were talking about this thing I'm related to. What's the point? It's a McDonald's commercial. Someone has to mention McDonald's. This is weird. I feel like we've just gone full circle. It's just Ronald hanging out in the streets or at McDonald's. Kinda like his first few appearances. They introduced another short-lived character, I Am Hungry, but he never did anything noteworthy besides being a glutton and repeating his name. Oh, and we see Grimace's aunts in what I believe is the last official commercial to feature all 4 main McDonaldland characters. Remember this picture. This will be the last time you ever see them all together. Now, by the turn of the millennium, Ronald's last true TV ad campaign began as Smile. Well, it was a couple of things. Sometimes it was called Ronald and Me, put a smile on, get happy. It doesn't really matter, it's Ronald's last few years in the mainstream. And with that, his actor was changed yet again, and this time for the better, with David Hussey. This guy was technically the Ronald I grew up with, and to be honest, he can move. He's alright in my book. The only problem is that we never got to see much of him past 2003. The reason for that being... Yes, friends, this was what eventually killed Ronald. Or at least put him into some weird semi-retirement for the past decade and a half. Well, if I could be a bit more clear, a few things got rid of Ronald in McDonaldland. For one, at the time, McDonald's was just looking for something new. They were changing with the times, as they had been for like decades up until that point. And in pushing in something new, they eventually had to push out something old. Another thing is that they don't really need the characters to promote McDonald's to kids. Everyone knows what a Happy Meal is and where you can get it. Just sell it with what kids want and bam, profit! And yet, in a weird twist, while Ronald's appearances have been limited for a couple of years, he still lives on as an ambassador to McDonald's. I'm not sure if kids now know who Ronald is, but they may have certainly seen his face somewhere around a local McDonald's, and he still pops up from time to time. But for now, I think that's really all I can say on Ronald and McDonaldland. McDonald's has just been shifting towards a new direction, and that just doesn't include our Hamburger Happy Clown anymore. He's survived for quite a long time, so if he needs the rest, I guess McDonald's will bring him back when they're ready. I mean, they can't keep on going with this thing forever, right? Wait, these guys have been around for 10 years? Who the hell keeps greenlighting this thing? Anyways guys, thanks for going down this journey with me if you made it towards the end, and a big thank you to users like Test Macaroni and Bill McDonald and all the people out there who archive and compile these commercials from so long ago for us to see now. I've always been interested in searching up weird old things, and I couldn't have done it without these people there to archive them, especially when they can be a little rare to find sometimes. And I guess you could say the idea of this video stems from me just being a curious kid, looking at random McDonald's commercials on the early days of YouTube. I wouldn't really call this a walk down memory lane, but just more of me putting my random research to good use. Hopefully, I can do more stuff like this, and in a more timely manner. Anyways, I hope to see you guys soon. Have a nice day and peace.